Today, I'm going to talk about when you should do the right thing for the wrong reasons. Welcome to Missing the Mark, where we look for meaning in strange places. I'm Christopher. So, the problem that I'm talking about comes about because I've encountered this from a bunch of people who will worry that they might be doing the right thing, but not for the right reasons. And they get really bugged by this. Because, of course, ideally, you should do the right thing for the right reasons. And they might think like, well, maybe I'm doing the right thing for some selfish reason instead. Maybe I'm not really doing it to be good. Maybe I'm not really, being generous in order to be generous. Maybe I'm really looking for something in return. Maybe I'm not really being loving. Maybe I'm just trying to get the warm feeling of somebody liking me for what I'm doing. What if I'm not doing this for the right reasons? And here's kind of the thing. I do understand that this is a problem that can bug people. This is not, in general, a problem that I have. And so I mean to be sympathetic, but, we do what we can. Here's the thing. There are only 3 actual options here. One of them is that you do the right thing for the right reasons. If this is a possibility, that's the one you do. Problem solved. You're doing the right thing for the right reasons. Now, suppose that for some reason this is not an option. For whatever thing, whatever problem you have, whatever defect of your character, whatever it is, you don't think you're actually capable of doing the right thing for the right reasons. There remain 2 options. Those 2 options are you can either do the right thing for the wrong reasons, or you can do the wrong thing for the wrong reasons. There's no such thing as doing the wrong thing for the right reasons. There can't be a right reason to do the wrong thing. It's intrinsically contradictory. So, if for some reason doing the right thing for the right reason is not an option, you're second guessing yourself. I don't think I have it within me to actually be generous. I don't think I have it within me to actually be loving. Okay, let's just grant the premise for the sake of argument. Your 2 options are you can either be generous out of self-interest, or you can fail to be generous out of what essentially is self-interest. Now, being selfish for self-interest is worse than being generous for self-interest. And so the thing that you should do in this circumstance is still the right thing, even if you feel like you're doing it for the wrong reasons, because it is better to do the right thing than to do the wrong thing. And so if this is your choice, if your choice is between doing the right thing for the wrong reasons and the wrong thing for the wrong reasons, as noted, there's no possibility of doing the wrong thing for the right reasons, well, pick the right thing. Why ever you're doing it, pick the right thing, because it's the right thing, and it's thus, by definition, the better choice than picking the wrong thing. And so, that's really kind of what it comes down to. It comes down very simply to this. You actually see this, by the way. There's a really useful part in a really nice way of looking at this in C.S. Lewis's The Screwtape Letters. I'm kind of looking at where it is on my bookshelf. I have that habit of looking off at the books that I reference on my bookshelf. So, anyway, the Screwtape Letters, phenomenal work. If you're wrestling with any sort of moral issue about like how to actually be good, read the Screwtape Letters. And if you already read them and it was a while ago, read them again. They're not perfect. They're not the only thing you need to read. They're not the be-all and end-all. But they're really, really good. And I really, really, really recommend reading the Screwtape Letters. There's an interesting part where Screwtape is mentioning this, that you can sort of, if you don't know the format, Screwtape is a demon who is giving advice to his nephew, Demon Wormwood. Wormwood has been assigned to try to corrupt some human being, and so Screwtape is writing letters of advice. And they kind of reference letters that Wormwood wrote, but Screwtape you don't include those. We only see Screwtape's letters. And so one of the problems Wormwood has, so everything's in sort of photographic negative is sort of the gist, because what Screwtape calls good is evil, and what Screwtape calls evil is good. And so the patient, that's to say the human being they're trying to corrupt, doing something good is, from Screwtape's perspective, bad, etc. And so Wormwood was having a problem where the patient was doing some good. He was doing something like a charitable action. He was taking care of somebody who needed help or something like that. I forget the specifics. It's been like 20 years since I read the Screwtape Letters. Anyway, and so what Screwtape suggests is, well, okay, if he's going to do the right thing, at least try to get him to do it for the wrong reasons. And maybe you can actually trip him up by drawing his attention to, and if you can't get him to do it for the wrong reasons, at least maybe suggest to him that he's doing it for the wrong reasons. And that could give him pause. And so, but the problem with this is you can only sort of do this recursive thing where he's wondering about it, or thinking about how, he's worried about this, but then he can think, try to make him think he's virtuous for worrying about this. And then if he starts to notice the problem here, maybe make him think he's virtuous for noticing the problem with thinking that he's virtuous. He said, but there's kind of a problem with human beings. They have a short attention span, and if you try to do this too much, they're likely to just laugh the whole thing away and go to sleep. And this is, I'm getting this a little bit wrong, unfortunately. As I said, it's been about 20 years, but go read the book to get it right. Strong recommendation there. And so the thing about it is you get kind of the same phenomenon here. If you're worried about doing the wrong thing for the wrong reasons, well, if you can tell what the right thing to do is, forget your own personal virtue for a second. Just, is this a good action and the alternative is not? Well then, no matter why you're doing it, no matter why you want to do it, no matter what is going on, no matter how base and mean your motives, go and do the right thing. And the kind of ironic part about this is if you just throw away the whole consideration as to why you want to do it, if you can identify it as the right thing, and you just throw out why you want to do it, because it doesn't actually matter why you want to do it. Do it just because it's the right thing, even if on some level you want to do it because you want to feel good about doing the right thing. On some level, you want to feel like you're the sort of person who does the right thing. On some level, you want to think of yourself as a good person. You want to be content with yourself, and you're not like actually concerned with the person. Whatever. If you can identify it as the right thing, go and do it. Forget about all that stuff. It doesn't actually matter. And here's the thing. By doing that, you will actually be, doing the right thing for the right reason. Because it being the right thing to do is the right reason to do it. And so, the thing about that, now, of course, you can then think, okay, but now am I doing that for the right reason? Or am I just trying to take a shortcut and wanting to feel good about myself? And here's the thing, and this is why actually recursing on this can actually be useful. Like in the Screwtape example, at some point it just becomes ridiculous. By the time you're thinking about am I thinking that this is the right thing to do because I want to feel good about myself, and I think this would make me feel good about myself. And am I thinking about whether or not that is because I want to think of myself as a good person? Keep on going for a little bit, and at some point you won't even be able to keep track of what you're worrying about. And then just laugh and let it go, and then go do the right thing. And then be done with it and move on. I realize this is vastly easier said than done if this is the sort of problem that one has. I'm kind of oversimplifying, but there's a reason for the oversimplification, and that reason for the oversimplification is that if this is something you are having trouble with, examining your feelings is not going to do you any good. No matter what. Your feelings don't really matter here particularly. Feelings can be useful under some circumstances. Feelings can be a good way of drawing your attention to something that you should actually pay attention to, for example. So, feelings that something's unjust can draw your attention to it, where you can then rationally think about it and figure out if you see an injustice going on, and if you have the ability within your power to through the legitimate exercise of your power to right this injustice, for example. Feelings can be useful, but your feelings about yourself, for the most part, won't do you any good about anything. Your feelings are easily changeable. They're incredibly easily manipulated. It is, if you feel like being negative about yourself, you will achieve that guaranteed. You may have to take a few steps, and then you may question this, but you'll come right back to it. And there is no way, if you are inclined to feel bad about yourself, you won't succeed. You will. And if you're inclined to doubt yourself, guaranteed you will succeed in doubting yourself, no question. Everyone has that ability. If you are prone to this, you will accomplish it. It just doesn't matter. That's the thing. I'm not saying to like be an automaton. I'm not saying to like be a feelingless robot or anything like that. What I'm saying is that your feelings are useful for drawing your attention to things. When your feelings are correct, they can be pleasant and enjoyable if it's about positive stuff. When they're wrong, they can help you in your perception of things. But since feelings are so often misleading, you can't trust them. And there is no circumstance under which you can trust your feelings. Your feelings are a little bit just like seeing something. You can't just trust that you saw something. You have to actually investigate and find out what you really saw. Optical illusions, mistakes, etc. are things you need to actually rationally consider. And so, if this is the sort of problem that you have, it is especially the case that your feelings misleading you so frequently especially need to be ignored as you go about just doing things because you can rationally conclude what the right thing to do is. And here's the key. You will over time not deaden your feelings, but through habituation, train your feelings into being accurate. Over time, the practice of doing the right thing simply because it's the right thing and having nothing to do with your feelings, whether you feel good about it or bad about it, or good about yourself while you do it or bad about yourself while you do it, whatever, if you can identify that this is in fact the right thing to do, then doing it is going to, over time, adjust your feelings to be more accurate. So that your feelings will, over time of ignoring your feelings and just doing the right thing, will over time make your feelings you don't have to ignore anymore. They will through right action, habituate your feelings into being right feelings. And so that's really kind of the big thing. That's why ignore your feelings is not like become a robot. It's ignore your feelings while your feelings are misleading you, and then over time, this ignoring of your feelings and doing the right thing will condition you into having the right feelings, where you will no longer have to ignore them. You will never be in a position where you can trust your feelings over your intellect. That will never happen. You're a rational soul, and so you are supposed to, in fact, use the mind that God gave you to think about what you are doing and know what you are doing. You will never, ever be able to legitimately be a wild animal who acts purely on instinct without thought. That shouldn't even be a goal. And that's kind of what's described by like trusting feelings, basically. But you will over time have feelings that are congruent with the truth, where your rational evaluation and your feelings will over time line up more and more, the more you have been habituated to doing the right thing and then seeing the consequences of doing the right thing, of giving something to somebody. And then, and part of how this can happen too is you go through that, you give something to somebody, like, whatever, help an old lady across the street, pull something from the Goofus and Gallant comics. You help an old lady across the street, and then you feel great for having done this wonderful thing. And then you feel a little, and then you like it, but then like the feeling dissipates. And like the next time you help a little old lady across the street, you don't get this, you still, feel that this is like the right thing to do, but you don't get the same rush because you don't have the novelty. And now there's a bit of work involved because you're not being carried through all the time by the rush of feelings. And over time, what happens is your feelings kind of acclimate to like, oh, here's a situation in which I can help. I will help. And it will be pleasant that you are helping. You will, it'll take time and whatever. You'll be walking slower than you normally walk, etc. And those feelings too of like, the impatience that you may well feel here will also sort of take their proper proportion over time as you get practice with this. They will be in perspective to the aid that you will be giving. The aid that you will see the actual amount of help that you will be giving. And so the puffed up feelings will over time come down to like a correct level. And at a correct level, they're not going to be so tempting because they're actually properly attuned to what's going on. And so they will merely support you in doing the right thing without it being overblown. And over time, you're not going to be so tempted by, am I just doing this in order to feel great about myself? Because you're not going to feel great about yourself. You're going to feel just sort of like an ordinary sort of good about yourself. And it will, in time, possibly taking years, depending upon your starting point, eventually come to bring your feelings into the proper proportion where they are helpful and supportive more than they are misleading. At which point, you're doing kind of the basic work of becoming an integrated human being. And it's just, you can't skip ahead if you're not there. You have to get there from here by progressing there. You can't just skip ahead to getting your feelings all right without having done the work of habituating them to reality as it in fact is. So, if you or someone you know has this sort of problem, the constant second guessing of yourself and the worrying that you're doing the right thing for the wrong reasons, then, I hope it helps. Do the right thing just because it's the right thing, even no matter what you feel like. And over time, the rest of it will sort itself out. Possibly a very long time. Just keep doing the right thing anyway. In the interim, doesn't really matter. You'll eventually do the right thing for the right reasons. Get there by doing the right thing. And, trust God, and it'll all work out eventually. Until next time, may you hit everything you aim at.